Jennifer Tefft and the Strange want to party with you on June 14th at Fireseed Arts Studio in Framingham, Massachusetts to celebrate their debut album, Strange Beginnings. Also sharing the Fireseed Arts stage, Lovina Falls and Little Boy Lost. Be in the Dirty Ham June 14th at Fireseed Arts Studio for Jennifer Tefft and the Strange record release show. Doors are at 7 p.m. Hey guys, Trev from the Struggling Artist Podcast, and I want to talk to you real quick about Struggling Artist Record Club. The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hey everybody, today our guest is Jennifer Tefft and the Strange. They are a Massachusetts-based band. They are here to talk about their record release show, which is coming up in June, as you just heard in the ad right before this. Stay tuned to the end to hear a song that they allowed us to play. This is episode 262 of the Struggling Artist Podcast, Struggling with Jennifer Tefft and the Strange.
No, I've had a full band since the beginning.
Okay.
John's been with me since the beginning as a guitar player and, co-writer on a lot of songs. But it's gone through a bunch of different, versions, and I've done some solo stuff as well. But, I've had a band for the whole time.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about just how you guys started with music and how you and John had met and how Chris gets into the equation. I want to hear it all.
Let's see. I got started in music because I watched MTV and I wanted to be like them. I always wrote poetry and lyrics and stuff, and then decided I wanted to get into music. John and I met. So how do I describe this? Your ex-girlfriend's boyfriend was working in the same place I was working, in a restaurant. And she used to come in and visit. And I used to sing with the piano player there. And she's like, you got to meet my friend John. And she brought John in, and we just hit it off and started doing acoustic stuff together. And I don't know why, but he stuck around for all this time.
Right? Likewise.
Hey. And then Chris and I have been friends on Facebook for years and never met in person, but I've always loved his stuff, and he kept up with my stuff. And about almost 2 years ago at this point, when I thought we needed a change in the band, just for some new energy. I kind of reached out and I was like, hey, and he's super busy, but he carved out a little time for us, and it's been a perfect fit, from that point on.
Yep.
Chris, tell me a little bit about you. Like, when did you start playing music? And
I was probably 9 or 10, I think, when I first started playing drums. And yeah, I was just sort of infatuated with the instrument. And I just knew, I felt like I knew I could play just from listening to music, because I could always hear what the drummer was doing, what all the instruments were doing. And it just made sense to me. And then I got a drum set for Christmas, and that's what kind of started it all. And and I just started, in bands in high school and then college and then out of college, and just been in bands pretty much all my life. So yeah, it was just something that I've always been drawn to, and I was always sort of good at it, which was fun and a good thing to have through high school, to be, to have something you could feel confident about, as a kid.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I always loved playing.
Nice. And what area are you from? Are you from the Boston area? Are you from New England, or?
Yeah, originally Jamaica Plain, grew up there. And now I'm out here in Wellesley, right on the sort of Wellesley-Natick line, but Metro West. Yeah.
And John, what about you? When did you start? How did all this thing come to be for you? Are you from the area as well?
I grew up in Northern California, but I spent my high school years out here. And I was probably about Chris's age, like 13 years old. When I started playing, I'd become curious about guitar. I liked the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix and Zeppelin, and I wanted to learn how to finger pick. That's what really got me to pick up a guitar. And I don't know, it progressed to electric and went from there, really. But that was really when I got started, and then playing through high school in bands, and one band after another, and eventually, I don't know, met Jen. And
nice.
Things progressed.
And your life just changed.
Ow.
So when you say, like, you're looking for, like, you needed there needed to be a change or whatever, does that change the sound of a band? Does that change the dynamic of a band? I have no musical talent whatsoever, so I'm like genuine curious when I hear things, or when I see like a band, like they, there's a new member or something, like what goes into, like, I mean, there's got to be a pretty big, like, thought process prior to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it changed it incredibly, because it's like baking something and then replacing half of the ingredients.
Yeah, it was our rhythm section, so it totally changed the backbeat.
Yep. And just the style of play, the tone of the instruments, the creative input, all of it's different. The energy, the jokes.
Better jokes.
You gotta have jokes, right?
So it definitely, and we've been playing with the same rhythm section for a long time. So it was kind of terrifying to make that change, but I think it was time just for some new blood, some new energy, some new creative input. So it's worked out pretty well so far.
So has the I don't know. So for me, I always, like, people like to do these subgenres. I don't know. It's all rock and roll music to me, right? So, but, like, did that change at all? Like, has the sound like drastically? Has it sped up? Has it slowed down? You know what I mean? Like, what's like what I don't know. I guess where would you put it on the spectrum of, like, of music, of rock and roll?
It's interesting. I think it's heading solidly back more towards an alternative rock sound, as opposed to, like, a singer-songwriter with a band. You know what I mean? For the last many years, the songs have just been me writing them and then bringing them to the band and we arrange them. Whereas now I feel like it's much more of a collaborative thing, back to how it was all when John and I started. It was, we'd write as a band, and kind of got away from that for a while. And now I feel like everybody has their creative input into the sound, and it really has kind of redefined what we sound like and where we're going, I think, songwriting.
I think it's also sorry to add to that, Jen, and I'm not that familiar with your previous rhythm section, but I feel like this band could be described as being very performance based. Even in the studio when we recorded, it was sometimes just one or two takes, but it was all of us playing, and for the most part, I mean, with a few overdubs here and there, but I feel like even when we rehearsed the songs, like they came together as like when we play live, we sound pretty much the same as the recordings.
Now, that's got to be like a chemistry thing too, right? That's got to be like a within the band, within the members of the band, for it to be able to play like that, especially when you're recording. I would have to imagine.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely. I mean, I think right away, we had various different people come in and play, and it was kind of like, yeah, they're good players, but something just wasn't quite right, whether it was their energy or whatever. And I always say, like, as soon as Chris showed up, I knew we were going to try our best to keep him in the basement for as long as we could. And then Sharky, our bass player, who couldn't be here tonight, he tried one night, and everything just felt right. It felt like we'd been playing together for a long time, and watching that develop over how long have we been playing together now? As with all of us?
I think I want to say, has it been a year?
Maybe a year now at this point. Watching it develop and how quickly, especially, John, Chris, and Sharky have all tuned into each other and fed off each other and really learned each other's nuances has been really cool, really fun to watch.
Nice.
Yeah.
And now, has any of you ever taken has there ever been like a hiatus personally, like with music, just like sometimes we get burnt out with what we love, you know what I mean? And you gotta step away for a minute or two. Has any of that has happened? Like, what was it like? And Chris, I know you weren't there at this point with them, but like during the pandemic, what was it like for all you guys, like not being able to do the thing that you love to do, right?
It's lonely.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. I mean, I was playing so much in the 90s, and when I met my wife, got married, started having kids, I did take a break for a few years, but then I was playing so much. And then during the pandemic, I took advantage of that, just doing remote collaborations with people I never even got a chance to play with. So that was fun. Even people like, it was, I think, as far away as Australia, Italy, just musicians that were recording, sending tracks. So I found a way to keep playing anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely sometimes good to get away from it if you need to. But now I'm kind of like at that point where I'm like, I'm playing as much as I can because who knows how much longer I have.
Yeah. John, do you want to go ahead?
No.
Okay. I took a break when I had kids for sure, because rock and roll doesn't really work well with that lifestyle. But then we just started rehearsing with them there, and my kids always say that they're like, we kind of grew up with the band in the basement, kind of coming in through the vents in their nursery and stuff. And they kind of always think that was pretty cool. And I do a lot of the business end of all of it too. So I get burned out pretty frequently and think about taking a hiatus, but I always kind of describe it almost as like a sickness. You just can't walk away from it. It follows you. You know what I mean? Not happy unless you're doing it. So
yeah. Now, are you all very much like some people get their most satisfaction from recording, right? Making albums, writing songs, but then some need the energy of the crowd and they need the performance type. Like what is that for you? Like where is there a balance there, or is it more one than the other?
I like it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I like it all too. I love playing live. I love playing in the studio. I do a lot more live than studio stuff, but yeah, I'm the same way, 50-50 at least. Yeah.
I love playing live and I love writing, when we're writing together and arranging. Recording for me is, I love when we're doing basics and everybody else's tracks. My tracks, not so much. It's just like hyper focus. And so, so kind of tedious sometimes, but this one wasn't tedious at all. We recorded with Bob St. John and he made it fun and really a good experience. So.
Now, Jennifer Tefft in the Strange, how is that a newer name once the new additions were everything? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I really felt like this, like you said, had a little bit of a different sound and a different energy in it. I felt like it needed its own thing.
Is that scary when you try when you go to something newer, a little bit different? You know what I mean? Because if you're established one way, like I know with authors don't try to go with, they're not going to write a book that's horror if they've been writing coming of age for the last 20 years. You know what I mean? So like, is it scary when you're like, all right, we're going to do this new thing, or is it exciting?
Well, like we haven't had, like major worldwide success or anything like that where people would be like, what are they doing? They don't sound like themselves, So I kind of feel like every time we do something, it's a little bit different because we're constantly growing and constantly learning and constantly evolving. I wouldn't want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Okay. Now, so is Strange Beginnings, is that like technically like the debut album for the full band?
For this full band.
For this full band. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. That makes sense with the name. That works with the name, right? You kind of play on words there. I like it. So what was the writing like for this album? How did it all go down?
Well, let's see.
Depends on the song, but yeah.
What's that?
I was just gonna say it depends on the song. Some songs you had written, some sort of came about organically as you.
Yeah, the first single. Well, I guess it was technically the second single we released. It was the first song we all wrote together as a band called Caffeine, and I think all of us just fell in love with it right away because it just had this really cool energy and spark to it. Couple other ones, I wrote and brought, and the arrangements, really sort of stayed true to my idea, but definitely went in slightly different directions. And then a couple other ones that I wrote and brought to them, the arrangements changed the entire song. And so it was, virtually co-written that way. So every song was a little bit different.
What makes a song a single as opposed to like just something that's going to be on the album? So like you guys have 2 singles out at the moment. The album will be out when this drops. But like, so we'll say, so Caffeine, y'all wrote together. It was the first song y'all wrote together. So maybe would that be why you would want that one to be a single? You know what I mean? Like what goes into the thought process of doing something like that?
Well, if it sucked, it wouldn't have been the first single for sure.
Yeah, there's that.
But I think we as a band all felt it was really good, and everybody we played it for was like, wow, that song, like it really just had something, and
energy.
Yeah. It's got a guitar riff that's kind of a hook. It's got the chorus that's a hook. The beat is really driving, and the production is really cool on it.
It represented the new energy, I guess, that the band has now.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, it's sort of, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think we all collectively felt, we were all in agreement that that song kind of represented the new strange beginnings of it all. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you, were you writing for an album, or were you just writing songs and they kind of came together?
Yeah, I think I just started writing. I go through spurts. Like I'll write a bunch of songs and I won't write for a while. And if I have enough that feel like they're solid, then start to think about making an album.
Mm-hmm.
I don't typically write songs with an album in mind. You just kind of write them until you have enough to choose from. It could take a year. It could take 6 years. It's just what this last one did. But yeah.
Nice. Well, I mean, tell me a little bit more about the band. Like, tell me like you guys have all played in other bands, or well, at least 2 of you have been playing music together forever. In your experience with playing with other things, like what makes this band like the one, outside of the, like, more, is it more than just the chemistry or what?
Wow.
You guys talk.
Chris, I've been playing with Jen for so long. She's literally been like my band.
Yeah.
So I guess I knew it was the one right away.
Right.
I don't know. But Chris he gets around.
I do. No, yeah, I'm in a few other bands, but I love this one because it's original music. It's more creative. The other bands I'm in are just cover bands, and which are great, but cover bands are cover bands. So it's been a long time since I've been in an original band and have had some kind of creative input. So that's a pretty rewarding experience when you write something or help write something and then record it and then see the reaction from people, and then you play it live and you see firsthand, literally, like someone attempted a stage dive the last gig. So,
Whoa.
So it's always funny to me, the concept of playing music, because you're really just pushing air, and when that air affects other people in a physical way, it's just this weird transformative energy that happens that always blows me away. But that's what's fun about music in general. But when you can write original music that people respond to positively, there's nothing more rewarding than that. So that's why for me it's really fun.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm from Rhode Island originally. I always say this because I always lead in with this, but like I very much am a homer for New England music, like the New England music community. I think there's something special here. I've always thought there was something special here. Like, now, did any of this have any kind of influence on your guys' playing? Like as far as like seeing local bands, when you were back before you had a band, or even when you started a band, you're like, yeah, this like these guys are talented too. Like we need to do stuff with them. As far as like we want to be part of this thing, does any of that? Because like for me, again, I'm not a musician, but like, I mean, I'm all over the spectrum with what I listen to. So it's like, but like New England to me, it just always had this thing, like this special thing, and like in my experience, a lot of it is more friendly than like more family than like competition with one another. And I mean, there's got to have a healthy balance of both, but like it just seems like I don't know, like. I've talked to bands from other parts of the country, and sometimes you hear about that, and then sometimes it's not like that at all, So, like, do you guys recognize what is here and stuff?
I mean, I think it's kind of hard not to. There's a really rich history. Obviously going back to like the Aerosmith, and you have Extreme, and the Cars, and Amy Mann, and Till Tuesday, and huge rich history. So,
yep,
you kind of can't get away from that. I think the community itself kind of goes in waves, and I've always kind of lived outside the city, so I've never really considered myself an insider on the Boston music scene. But I do feel like when you make the effort to reach out and go see other bands that you like in the area, they reciprocate, and you can start making relationships with them. And I think there are definitely strong pockets of that happening around the area.
Yeah, for me in the 90s, it was, the Allston Rock City days. And just sort of growing up in this town and all the clubs and seeing, playing with other bands. When I was in an original band in the 90s, just, we'd have bills where there would be 3 or 4 other bands playing in the same venue on the same night. And you just start to get to know each other. And I don't know, it just felt like a small but vast kind of community of just local musicians and, Harper's Ferry, which is now the Brighton Music Hall, just all these little venues, TT the Bears back in the day, Middle East. You just start to get to know a lot of them, or at least you've heard about them. And then you, I don't know, start opening up for bigger acts like, was it G Love and Special Sauce a few times here and there. So I don't know. For me, Boston's always been a musically rich city. And it's always a great thing at being a musician and knowing that there's enough venues going around. I mean, some close, some open, whatever, but there always seems to be enough, at least in this area of the country. But I guess it's a nice community. It's active and doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. I still know to this day a ton of bands, so it's great.
Y'all have families, right? Y'all have families and stuff. Like how do you balance that life with making music and getting together to create? Like when does it, does it interfere with one another, or have you found a balance? You know what I'm saying? Like some people, Jen, you had said you had to step away for a little while when you started having kids and everything. But like once it gets back into the swing of things, like is it ever like does it balance out okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely easier now. I mean, my kids are older now. My youngest is about to graduate high school, and while keeping up with her is really kind of a full-time job in its own right, because she's kind of a force of nature. But they, when they were younger, it was, trying to write whenever they, were sleeping, or, I could sit and entertain them for 10 minutes while I played guitar and tried to write a song. Now it's much easier. They have their own things going on, and they're pretty supportive. They come to shows, which is really fun. My daughter does a lot of our artwork. So she did the album cover for the album coming out. So that's a lot of fun. I bounce ideas off them a lot of times now because, they're young and in the know about what's cool and all that stuff.
Put them to work.
It's definitely was a challenge for many, many years, especially once I got divorced, and it was, trying to balance being single mom and the kids and driving them all over the place and everything like that. There wasn't a whole lot of time, and there isn't a whole lot of time for creative space. I think was the hardest thing for me, is because there's always this sort of chatter about what's going on with them, what their schedules are, what you need to do for this and that, and all that stuff, and who's like, having a fight with this person or whatnot. And so now I have a lot more creative space in my brain and a lot more time to do this whole thing. I think, it's been a process of finding that balance. It's definitely hard at first.
Yeah, for me, it was like I mentioned earlier. When I met my wife and got married, I had a full-time job and stuff, but I was playing so much also that like I said, I got burnt out, and I was looking forward to a break. We started having kids right away, and 3, but they're all older now, college age and stuff. But there was a time about, I don't know, 5 years after we got married, that we were out to dinner one night, just the two of us, like date night type thing. And she asked me a question I was surprised to hear. She just looked at me and said, "Is there anything you wish you were doing that you're not doing?" And I just blurted out drums, like halfway through her asking. And she's like, wow. She was taken aback by how quickly I responded. I had it queued up. She's like, "How often do you think about that?" I'm like, "Every day." And she's like, "How come you never mentioned it before?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to, get married, have little kids, and then be like, crying about not playing drums on weekends, whatever." So I'm like, I'm fine. But, eventually I'd love to get back into it. It's such a huge part of my life. And I think my break was over, was what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm feeling like I need to get back into it. And the answer is having an understanding partner like that, where she was totally cool with it. She's like, yeah. And I remember joining a Motown band, which only gigged 20 to 30 times a year, I think. So it was kind of like a nice way to sort of wean back into it. But then, after a few more years, it just started picking up more and more. But it's never been an issue in terms of balancing, because she's, a great wife and fully capable of handling kids even more than I am. But so that made it easier, definitely.
She's a saint.
She's a saint. Yep. But now it's even easier. Like you touched upon, Jen, with they're just older. They're adults, pretty much young adults. So it's and actually, if anything, it's been fun to show them that you can kind of do whatever you want, or whatever you set your mind to do.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool because they'll come to a gig, and
that's cool.
Like,
yeah. I feel like I would have been like the kid that's like eye rolling at my parents, like, oh god, here we go.
And they were like, when my son was like 12-ish or something, he was kind of embarrassed. But now they come to shows and they're right up in the front row and they bring their friends, and it's kind of surreal, actually.
Yeah, and it's not like we're like a dad's garage band playing at a high school dance. I mean, we're playing real shows. It's kind of even the kids recognize that. They're like, wow, okay, this is like a real band.
Mm-hmm. So how do you balance it now? Like, how many shows do you guys try to get out there and play, like, a year? We'll just say.
Well, we're still working on that. It's been a big transition time for us. We just got a label. We've got a great publicist working for us. I just actually had a great conversation with the management company today. And so we're a little behind the 8 ball on the touring part of this thing for this album, but hopefully we will get, a lot more solid bookings going. So it was tough when we didn't really know what was going on with when things were going to be released and when things were coming out and what everybody's schedules were. So hopefully in the mid-fall we'll be, hitting the ground running.
So when you finish an album, like, do you have that, like, you might not have that idea of what's going to happen next, right? Like, you don't know, like, this might just be what we did. We just recorded this album. We're going to play some local shows and that's going to be it. And then when does it start, like, oh, wait, we might go do this now? You know what I'm saying? Like, is there a period where things, I don't know. I don't want to say like, oh shit, this is the real thing. Like, I don't want to say that, 'cause that's not what I'm trying to say, but like, what is when things start to move forward and you're like, oh, okay, we are doing this. Like, is it?
When does the switch flip?
Yeah.
I think for me with this project, it was as soon as we started recording. I was like,
Oh,
we
wow.
got to get. Yeah, I mean, I knew this album was going to be good, and I knew I want to play with these guys. And actually, I was talking to the guy. I was talking to the management guy today, and he was like, "What? So, what do you want to do? In the next 6 months?" I'm like, I want to play. I want to play a lot. I want to play fun shows, and I want to play good shows, and I want to play big shows, and I want to play a lot of shows.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody else agrees, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Good.
So is it for everybody though? Like when you guys started recording, it was like, all right, this is what's going to happen. Like we're going to do this.
I was gonna say like watch. Well, it was a couple more months after we tracked that. Bob was mixing and sending us, rough mixes and stuff. But that's when I started really hearing like how special it was. I mean, we tracked really quickly in the studio, but when we started getting roughs in and then the masters, it was kind of like, oh, this sounds incredible. And then you get more excited. Then you just hope everyone else feels the same way. And then when you start to get that response, then you start to think like, oh, maybe this could, propel us further. So yeah, I think we're kind of on that cusp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
There's a few more pieces in place and a few more doors to be knocked on, but I think I feel really, really good about this whole thing right now. I feel really good about the product we have, the art we've made, the people we're playing with, and I just feel like I have no problem walking up to someone and being like, "This is awesome. You want us to play with you."
Yeah, it is awesome. I got a chance to listen to it today. I actually listened to it a few times, almost. And no, I really liked it. And
Cool.
I think it's a well made, like put together very well. I'm a storyteller, so like hearing how what song has to go where, and for me, sometimes I might overthink that more than the people who are putting it together, but I was like, oh, this makes sense, and like I gotta say, Love and War was probably my favorite track on the album.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah,
We actually had conversations about the order of those tracks, right?
Oh my God, you should see the
A lot
text.
of conversations.
Yeah.
yeah.
Drive everybody crazy.
Yeah.
So what goes into that for you? Like why? Like when one of you or all of you can answer is like, what do you think has to happen in order to get the perfect track listing?
Here you guys go. I'll go.
All right, I was going to treat it. I sometimes think of it as like a lot. If you were designing a set for a live show, you want to come out of the gates hard maybe, and then kind of slow it down a little and kind of create more of an organic, peaks and valleys with it in
Like a
terms
roller
of
coaster. Yeah.
tempos and but also I don't even know if we think about this, but like having two songs together in the same key maybe, or two songs that are similar in tempo, you might not want to have that, like try to avoid that or something. But I just think I don't know, sometimes you just listen to them and you feel it out. One just sounds better coming after the next and that kind of thing. But then, yeah, I think you want to start strong and end strong. That's probably the priority, I think. That's how I look at it anyway.
The bookends or whatever. Yeah.
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 What
Satanic track somewhere.
what's that?
I was being sarcastic. I said you have to hide the secret satanic track.
Oh yeah,
somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah, don't play it backwards.
Don't
Yeah,
play
there
it
you go.
backwards. Was there
You
any?
can't play it backwards anymore, really. I guess you could scrub it on your computer, but
Oh, that's true. You're right. That's a good point.
Is there was there any song that you guys recorded that was like, oh wow, like this wasn't like, maybe not, it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, but it hit a little different?
Yeah.
Good question.
well, there was one song that John and I have been. This song is the song "Down on My Knees" has been around for 8 or 9 years at this point. And it was supposed to be on the last album in 2017 or something. And it just, we always say it couldn't get out of its own way. And so we finally found its voice on this album, and we're really psyched with it. But that was kind of a surprise that worked out, because even going into it, I don't know about you, John, but I was like, oh, I don't know if this song's gonna work.
I was dreading it going into the studio. I mean, I think like that song came together in the studio. Like our pre-production, it was sort of taking form, but it was still like, I'm like, What
They
are we
went
doing?
down a lot of really bad rabbit holes for a while.
Yeah, we went to the studio with some songs that were pretty much in sketch format.
Mm.
Yeah, which was good though. I think that made Bob happy because there was a lot of creative input across the whole team. So yeah.
Now, what was
Felt a little that way.
what was it like working with Bob? What was the name of the studio you guys worked with?
He was such a pain in the ass.
Said that. Well, so Bob has his studio, which is PDQ Studios in Florida, but we actually did basics up here at Art Knife's studio in Rentham, Mass. He was kind enough. It's not like a public, a studio he rents out often, but he's good friends with Bob and also with Sharky, and so he let us do our basics there. And then I think we did get guitars there too, right, John? I think.
Yeah.
And then I went to Florida and did the vocals in Bob's studio down there, which was awesome. I'd say every step of the recording process for me was awesome. It was so fun.
It was easy.
Well, I wouldn't say, not for me.
Well, you made it look easy.
But I really enjoyed myself. It was great.
Yeah, it was a fun week, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah. And we had I think it was like 3 days of tracking the basics here. That was, I think, or maybe more. But we were done with drums anyway after a couple of days, and then bass and guitar and stuff. And then I think did you do some scratch vocals too, Jen? I think
I did, yeah. And then just to sort of, and we tried a few vocals, but we were kind of running out of time, and we really wanted to make sure we got guitars done. And then we did some remote recording for a couple guitars as well with our friend Kerm, who set John up, and we did a remote session there. But all in all, it was a pretty smooth process, and the quickest process for me and John anyway, for any album we recorded. Usually, we're kind of doing it part-time and, a couple hours here, a couple hours there. And it was fun to get it all done in like a couple months time.
even in the studio, even Bob said, just like, I think it was caffeine. He just no click track, just play. And we didn't have a set form. I don't even think. I think we just kind of we winged it, and then, but it came out all right. Sometimes you get lucky.
On that track says, we're off the rails. I have no idea where we're going. If you listen back to the recording, it's like,
oh, really? Yeah, but therein lies that energy that you can't sit down and write on paper and to expect it to come to translate. It was kind of fun that way. There was a couple songs where he turned off a click track and just said, just play it, which was kind of nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Tell me. It helps when you have someone like Chris, who's like a built-in time machine, who doesn't really vary all that much. I mean, once in a while, if he's really amped up, he speeds up. But most of the time, he's like,
I'm guilty as charged. Yeah,
right on.
If my coffee was extra strong that morning,
that's usually the case for all of
us. Tell me about the record label that you got. You guys just signed to a record label. Is it recently? Yeah,
just right. I guess maybe January or February of this year. Yeah, so they're a small indie based in Boston and Maine. Lisa and Todd Erickson, and Todd's been in a bunch of Boston bands forever and is just a great music lover and a musician. Has a studio, and Lisa has like a promotions and design background, and they just wanted to start releasing. Started with their friends' music. They saw this void of a lot of people who are just kind of floating around in this plateau where we are. Where we're tromping along doing our music, and we're people are releasing really good music, and it needs more attention. And so they've jumped on board with that and helping us get the word out and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah, they're great.
I feel like I've I don't know. I toyed with maybe doing a label at one point because I meet so many people through the podcast, and I can really help out with networking and stuff like that. But I don't know. I was it's to me, I'm terrified to dip my toe in that,
Well, I gotta tell you, I mean, I worked, my ex-husband and I owned a label in the 90s, and we had a lot more money behind us at that point. And it's all networking. So, I mean, if you're good at networking, then you'd probably be great at it. If you find music that you really like and you're pushing that, and you believe in it and you're networking behind that, then that's really all it takes. I mean, you can learn all the other stuff,
Yeah. I think a lot of I see some small labels sometimes, and And like, actually, I mean, I prefer, all my favorite labels are small labels, but like, you'll see some and it's like, like, I don't know. I think sometimes there's like just people out there that want to puff out their chest to just do it, you know, and I'm afraid that's like, I don't want to end up like that, but which that will make me like obsess over it. Right. And I'll probably, you know, I'll lose my job because I'll be just focusing on this. And, you know, I'm a little bit crazy when it comes to that kind of stuff. So especially when I'm
sure that's what happens to a lot of those little labels, is because it's like music audiophiles, you know, that they love music and they just get super hyper focused on it and wanting to make it work for people. And unfortunately, it's a business too, and it's really hard to make money. So yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. I don't do any of this stuff for money. So it's between this and the record club, like I make no money. I lose money, but that's okay because I have a job where I can lose a little bit, right? So that's my hobby, I guess. You know, instead of buying instruments, I'm buying podcasting gear, and I'm, you know, buying records and mailing them to people, you know, and like,
that's awesome though.
That's great.
I try. You know, it's just fun for me. Like I was the guy who used to, like, when I was a kid, like you hear something new, like I couldn't wait to run over to my friend's house with a cassette tape and be like, listen to this, you know? So having the record club, like, kind of helps me with that. Like it fills that little void I had from back then, I guess. You know,
like that.
But so the album drops on May 14th, and then June 14th is the
May 17th, Friday, May 17th.
Okay, sorry. All right, May 17th the album drops, and then on June 14th that is the record release party.
Yep.
Okay, and that
at Fireseed Arts in Framingham, and we have two awesome bands on the bill with us. We have Little Billy Lost. And then we have Lavina Falls, which both of them have released really amazing music in the last year or so. So I'm really excited about that.
All right, that's cool. Where is it again? Can you repeat it?
It's Fireseed Arts in Framingham. It's this really cool art studio, but it's like a huge space with a great stage. We played there in April, owned by just some really great people. Amazing art all over the place. The whole thing is like an art project. I mean, everywhere you look, it's like things on the ceiling and on the, I don't know, it's just amazing. I wanted to stay there forever. It's so cool.
Yeah, no.
So we're really excited about it. I think it'll be a really fun night.
That sounds like a space that would just give off good energy, like creative energy.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You can get lost just, you know, standing around in it. And there's something, every time I'm there, I see something different.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Well, where can people find you on the internet? Where are your social medias? Where can they find your music?
Well, so I'm at the basic thing is our website, which is jennifertefft.com, and there are 2 F's in Tefft, Tefft, because everybody spells it wrong. And then socials are Jennifer Tefft Music. Instagram is Jennifer Tefft, and everybody else has their Instagrams too. Like, what are you, Boston drummer, Chris?
Yeah.
And what is yours, John? Is yours like Perillo?
I don't even use it.
No, he's our like anti-social media dude.
John, I'm right there with you. I have the producer of the podcast handles the social media stuff, and I'm forced to do some of it, but like, yeah, I'm right there with you. I can't stand it. So
but if you start at the website, it has all our socials on there. And if you want to sign up on our email list, we send out, you know, monthly emails and stuff like that.
Okay.
Simon is being so good, Jen. Oh, sorry.
Done now.
It was adorable. Yeah.
I have 2 dogs, and Simon's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's not even.
That's awful. You shouldn't say that too loud. I feel so bad for Tommy and Lenny.
Oh, they hear me.
My other dog ate my hamburger right before we got on the
Oh no.
Rudy?
Yeah. Shocker.
Where did you leave it?
Next to me, like literally 6 inches from me. I turned to take the potatoes off the stove and it was gone.
Oh,
He's
wow.
like a ninja.
He took his shot. Yep.
Yeah. And he won.
Yep.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for coming on and talking with me about the band and the album and you know, everything you guys do. Congrats on a very strong, I guess, debut album for Jennifer Tefft and the Strange.
Thank you.
I can't wait to hear more stuff in the future. You guys are always welcome to come back, and you want to talk about whatever, we can do that again. That, you know, And, I'll make sure all the stuff is in the show notes. And, appreciate you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that's the show. I want to thank Jennifer Tefft and The Strange for being today's guest on the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you will find links to their music. Check them out. Support them. And if you're free on June 14th, head over to Framingham. Check them out. Check out their record release party. Sounds pretty good. I think I'm going to go if I'm off from work. Thank you to Chris Chavez for doing everything he does for the podcast. Thank you to State Line Records for being sponsors of the podcast. Thank you to the band Loser Circle for allowing us to use their song Great Illusion of Time off of their debut album, Took Long Enough. You can always find a link to that album to pick up a copy of the vinyl via our website or our link tree, which is always around. Thank you to everybody supporting us over at Patreon. If you want to become a patron, head to patreon.com/podcasttsa. The fees are inexpensive. And it helps us build things for the podcast. Get us new equipment and projects that we work on. And we always give credit to our Patreon folks once they, whatever project we're working on. Thank you to everybody listening. Whether you're near or far, I appreciate it. Chris appreciates it. We all appreciate it over here at the Struggling Artist Studio. Again, I'm blown away by how many times, we get new listeners and people that reach out and make comments and, good comments, not bad comments. All right, it's time to get out of here with a song to play. Jennifer and the Strange were kind enough to let us play one of their singles off of their new record, Strange Beginnings. The song is called Caffeine. Until next week, take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you then.
to, I want to, I want